Discovering a Menace to Society, Menace LA. Menace is a brand out of the USA founded by Steven Mena. In the span of 9 years, Menace has become a streetwear powerhouse, earning themselves a spot among the top of the food chain when it comes to this space. When you look at their journey, Steven is like your typical brand owner just trying to make it out. This makes him a perfect and relatable character to follow if you have a brand. Let's have a look into that journey. Steven founded the brand back in September 2013. He was able to start the brand with $500 working at PacSun and Subway. Bear in mind he was in college studying media and cultural studies around this time. I think he also did a minor in business and marketing. The first idea of the brand sparked when he saw a guy on Twitter selling wristbands. Steven described himself as a person who's always curious around projects, and so he found it cool that someone could generate income online from something so small. Steven had a natural interest in streetwear and knew how to use Photoshop. So from there, he did his research and stumbled across a 150-page ebook named Launch a Kick-Ass T-shirt brand. This was enough to get Steven going with his brand after he stayed up all night reading it in one sitting. He called up his friend Ivan and they started getting the brand together. They eventually landed on the name Menace after going back and forth on other names. Steven started with humble beginnings as his site was first hosted on Carmeloop. One of Steven's earlier strategies was to get his clothes stocked in shops in the US and abroad. However, I'm not too sure how well that worked out. His startup story is a familiar one, as he made a small $500 investment which covered his launch. He started out of his college dorm room and talked about ideas with his friends. We all know a guy in that situation, and maybe that's you watching. After a few months of running the brand, Steven would become a one-man band after him and his friend decided to no longer work together. This didn't slow him down though, as we can see from today. Steven kept his focus and put in the work and dedication. To illustrate how dedicated he was, Steven essentially gave up a normal college life to get his brand to where it's at today. He would drive around, pick up and drop off orders in between class. He even walked 3 miles from his dorm room to pick up a box full of black tees and orders that needed to be made. In his bag was all his school books and papers. After graduating college, Steven saw the most growth in his brand, which can be credited to being less restricted with his time and having 100% focus on the brand. Obviously, Menace has now built up a nice following as well as a team, which allows Steven to focus on his role as a creative director and designer. One of the learning lessons Steven learned around this period is the value of money management. Not living too excessively, but also balancing that with investing money into the right things. I'm glad he mentioned this because a lot of brand owners need to hear this. I'll leave this quote up here for you to pause and read. At the heart of Menace is a for us, by us mentality. They embrace the dark elements that embody the unforgiving side of LA, countering the stereotype that paints Los Angeles as a sunny paradise. Menace derives inspiration from aspects of daily life, locally and globally, to offer original, street-inspired products. The brand has a sizable following of over 100k on Instagram, so the fact that they still run independently kind of comes as a surprise. When it comes to their collections, Menace keeps the heart of the brand alive in every drop. However, on the surface level, they switch up the theme for all of their drops by taking a different approach to every presentation, rollout, and design ethos. I think at a base level, a lot of the designs are inspired by LA and Hispanic culture as a whole, especially when you look at the consistent paisley motif, the caps, as well as the fonts used. They have a rough and unique aesthetic to them, which would appeal to a niche audience. Their catalogue consists of a lot of typical streetwear staples. One thing about Menace is that they love their oversized tees with bold graphics on them. One of my favourites to date is this white tee which has a graphic of someone with the Menace logo braided into their hair. Steven has to let us know how this graphic was made because this is nuts. One of their most iconic ones was their all-seeing eye tee, which shows you the other images if you look inside the eye. Essentially, it had a lenticular effect where you see other images based on reflections and how you move the object around. When speaking with Network, Steven explained it was accomplished using a thin vinyl sheet as opposed to the thick plastic. I think Menace may have been the first brand to come out with this as well. This tee where you have to almost squint your eyes to see the word Menace is also dope. You got so many dope tees to talk about, so I'll leave some of them up here. Around the World Cup in 2020, Menace did switch it up with the tees by introducing their very own football jersey. I never expected Menace to create something like this, so it goes to show how tapped in Steven really is. Outerwear is also a big part of Menace's product catalogue. The leather jacket embossed with the paisley pattern was honestly a good idea, and this came after their skeletal embossed leather jacket. I'm also a fan of their varsities and fleeces. As I was writing the script for this video, Menace actually dropped an alternative colorway to their God Willing varsity, which comes in a darker color. The first edition followed the light blue and beige version instead. To this day, for me personally, this is one of my favorites from them. The creativity doesn't end there though. They also dropped 2 Sherpa fleeces which had tiger faces on the back. It's definitely one of the best fleeces that dropped when a lot of brands were dropping them. Continuing on the tiger motif, Menace also dropped this tiger blanket. These blankets are also known as cobijas and are very popular among Hispanics and Latinos. I hope I didn't butcher that word. Looking over Menace's IG, it's clear to see they have a deep love for denim. Not only have they used it frequently, but they've also been able to stay doing something different with each piece they bring forward. Some include the stencil cut design, the embossed effect, the distressed effect, one denim duffel bag, and of course, their signature paisley pattern. I feel like Menace could launch a whole sub-brand dedicated to denim the way they're just able to pull fresh design to the table. We also have to mention their gun range hoodies. I believe these gave Menace a lot of traction when growing their brand, and rightfully so. The hoodie has one paisley sleeve, which can also be seen on the side of the hoodie. The other sleeve has a few text details with Menace's logo there also. The center of the hoodie includes the words Beverly Hills Gun Range, engulfing two guns crossed over. To top it off, the words Menace is printed across the whole graphic. The design is essentially a staple in their locker and has been reimagined on t-shirts as well as for pop-up events. Last but not least, we have to talk about Menace's obsession with releasing non-clothing items. Obviously we've covered the cobijas, but one of Steven's long-term goals was to release home appliance type items that aren't necessarily clothing. Let's have a look through them. First, we have the money counter with the Menace logo on the side. The culture calendar, which marks historic moments or facts in hip-hop, music, sports and pop culture history. A knife set coming with a fully custom cutting board and knife, their logo rug which is hand tufted and made out of wool, their dartboard which is manufactured fully like the ones used professionally, and a Bible safe box which is essentially a safe coming in the form of a Bible. With all that being said, Menace has made a massive improvement from their first design ever. It was a simple tee with a ski mask made up of guns printed on the center. You can still see some of their early designs on their page, which featured angels and heavy use of the Menace to Society mantra. Menace's early designs were a lot simpler and mainly screen print with embroidery. As we move on to today, we can see they've progressed onto more complex patterns and cut and sew pieces. I'll leave a lot more up, but if you're a brand owner watching this, use this as motivation to show yourself you can do it too. The improvement and development of the brand is proven through their tee, and even though it's a little different, you can still see some of the roots of these designs in today's designs. As for the design and inspiration process, Steven mentions that he's always thinking and looking at ordinary stuff from different perspectives that helps him stay creative. He'll sit down, put earphones in and start creating stuff for hours. He also stocks unreleased ideas which he can pull from for collections. He'll then go on to use Illustrator to edit them into final designs. When it comes to moments in the brand's history, Menace shows a track record of pulling off marketing ideas and events that are out of the box and simply go above and beyond. You could say this is another brand utilizing guerrilla marketing. I'm not too sure if this is the case to this day, but a very large amount of the brand was grown organically without PR, ads or influencers. This is just another brand showing you it can be done. The result? Organic love. Your community becomes stronger, more loyal, and all the co-signs from celebs and influencers are more authentic, which is fundamental when working with them. I think to this day, this is one of Menace's smartest rollouts. In August 2019, they replicated MySpace to recreate a social network that would showcase their lookbook surrounding mental health. Obviously, social media has had a huge effect on our mental health, and this is Steven's interpretation of that through a collection. Creating a website is not easy. Going the extra mile to create a social network is a whole nother ballgame. The website had a made-up community of people, and each profile featured a different fit from the collection. I also like the idea of their May 2020 drop where they simulated an arcade game for their lookbook at the time. Going back to pay vendors who helped them with a pop-up is also a kind gesture from them. Another creative idea is their Beverly Hills Gun Range pop-up. Steven came up with the idea from brainstorming it. He and his small team held an event where they set up a small gun range where customers could line up and shoot BB guns at paper targets that showcased the lookbook. Being able to immerse your customers into your own world of ideas of your brand, I think will be a key component in the future of running a brand. So this is an idea I have much admiration for. What's crazy is that this was all built and set up by him and his team. No specialists, no third-party builders, just Steven and his guys. One of the hardest campaign shoots I've seen while running this page is for their members collection. The pieces include Beverly Hills Gun Range hoodies in two different camo colors being green and navy/white. In the shoot, models in the green camo stand in a square formation looking in one direction. These set of models engulf to other set of models wearing the alternative colored hoodie while they look straight at the camera. The contrast and disruption and the way it all comes together is what made me like this shoot. The accompanying shots featuring different angles, poses and locations all comes together cohesively. There's so much more we can unpack here, but I'll end up with two extra things I like. One was a billboard they had up at Fairfax and Melrose. No pun intended, but the billboard was definitely eye-catching. I think it was a perfect image to use overall. I like how Menace also incorporate fashion films into their marketing. I don't think you can market your knife set any better way with an infomercial video. And their Cosmic Connection commercial looked like something straight out of a Hollywood movie. At this point, it's clearly more than just the clothes. You guys already know I love my fashion films. I highly recommend you check out the rest of theirs. It's 2015, and as Steven was sorting out orders in his LA office, he noticed a shipping label with the name of NBA star DeMarcus Cousins. Now this was the start of change and helped propel his brand on the right track, all just 2 years in. 2 years later came another turning point when Steven met Ian Connor. The beauty of this was that it was all natural. Ian initially saw one of the pieces in Steven's car and told Steven he needed it. Later on, he posted on Instagram and the hoodie went out to sell in 20 minutes and land on the grailed resale market. Apart from that, it's hard to keep up with the celebs that wore the brand. However, some of them include Gunna, Young Thug, Travis Scott, Lil Baby, Kalani, The Migos, and Bad Bunny, who wore it in a commercial. Another big moment is when Sheck West modeled for their Fall Winter 2020 collection. This consisted of denim sets, a customizable puffer, a few other outerwear pieces, and more. Mexican artist Cuco also modeled for their Motherland collection, and rappers Draco the Ruler and OGZ modeled for one of their Beverly Hills gun range hoodies. I think Menace settling on an official logo was also ideal. It's not only a good logo that matches the brand, but it's also very versatile in the way it's used. I like the way they're able to constantly spin into graphics which can be seen across their Instagram, as well as details on clothes and further imagery. I always knew Menace was a serious heavy hitter in the space, but me creating this video opened my eyes up more to the brand and the level of quality it truly has. Menace clearly has a loyal following. I mean, there's people out here getting the logos tattooed on them, people are filling up their pop-up events, and they stood the test of time for almost 10 years. Also, I like Steven's vision to uplift the Hispanic community, as he feels they're overlooked. It's something I highly respect, and I hope he's able to fulfill that vision. Now, as for what we can learn from Menace, I'll leave that over to Steven to put us on.
3 pieces of advice that I've gotten that really resonated with me. First one is don't doubt yourself. You know, you're gonna have a lot of people that come and kind of trying to throw you off your course, whether it's family, whether it's friends, whether it's, you know, teachers, whatever, what have you. If you have a goal, if you have something that you want to reach, just stay on course and don't let anybody or anything get you off that course, no matter what. Another piece of advice that I've gotten is be kind to everybody. You know, I like to say the same people you see on the way to the top are the same people you see on the way down, and you don't want to make enemies. You don't need to have this bad attitude towards people. It's just be nice to people, you know, and talk to people. Take the time to listen to people's stories. Take the time to communicate with your customer base or your fans or whatever you want to call them, because these are the people that really support you. You know, they're spending their hard-earned money. That's what's going to allow you to continue to grow. So be kind to people and just be there. Lastly, I would say is just be authentic. You know, stay true to yourself and stay who you are, no matter how big your star grows, no matter where you go in life. Just always stay true to who you are. Don't ever change up for anybody or for anything.
Menace ticks all the boxes of what a streetwear brand is. I think Steven and his brand is a good figure to look up to if you're on your brand journey. As Menace closes in on his 10th year in September, I'll be there along with them on that journey. I truly believe Menace can become a streetwear giant in the mainstream, and I say this because of their ability to constantly be creative in both their marketing and their designs. This is a brand here for the long term. If you enjoyed this video, please like and voice your opinions on the brand in the comment section below. Share this to a friend who's a fan of Menace as well. If you're new here, we cover underground brands all across the world. We also touch on mainstream topics, and sometimes we release educational content so that maybe you can learn something from it. Please subscribe below to be a part of this ever-growing community. It took a lot to make this video, so any support is appreciated. Thank you.
I took $500 from the 2 jobs I was working, invested in like 36 t-shirts, and just went from there.